Happy Tuesday, everybody. This is Andy with Two Perspectives Studio. How's everybody doing on this Try It Tuesday? Hope everybody's doing well. If you are catching me on a replay, make sure you hashtag replay and let me know that you were here. And I can say hi and answer any questions you might have. I'm trying to pull up my comments on my other device here and see if those are working. Hope everybody's doing good on this lovely Tuesday wherever you are. I'm doing fairly well. Hey, Ma Dukes, how are you? Hope you're doing good in your neck of the woods. Hey, Marianne. Looks like my comments are cooperating. That's pretty cool. Doesn't always work here in Facebook Live land, but hey, Susan, how are you? Hope everybody's doing good. This is Easter week for those of you who celebrate. Hi, Tina. How are you? Haven't seen you in a hot minute, it feels like. Hey, Tammy. I've been so super busy. I haven't been around a lot. So it's good to take this opportunity to be live with all my friends here and make sure I can interact with you guys for the next little bit. I have something fun today. You're recording? Yeah, I know. It's been forever. I'm sort of in and out and I see you, but you don't see me, and I haven't been commenting because it's hard to comment when you're a spaz like I am and you're trying to work and watch lives at the same time, and I'm not that coordinated to do all that. So right, vacation. Yes, vacation mode. JR and I have been trying to plan out the rest of the year and trying to get some vacation time in. So, but for all of you that celebrate Easter week, happy Easter. I was going to try and wear my bunny ears today, but they are not fitting in the shot here. So I was trying to be kind of cute. So you'll just have to pretend I'm wearing my bunny ears. But happy Easter week to all that celebrate. Happy Passover to all of you that celebrate that. And happy Tuesday to all of those who celebrate Tuesdays like I do, because Tuesday is one of my favorite days of the week. Hey, Jenna and Janice, how are you? So, if y'all saw my turkey that I made last Thanksgiving, you kind of had to know that I was going to make a ham for Easter. Hey, Shannon. Hey, Jenna. So, I will explain to you what I did to this point and tell you why I did it ahead of time, and then we'll move on and we'll finish Mr. Ham. Now, I know I researched a little bit because I'm just geeky like that. I like to research the history of holidays and foods and things like that. I find it kind of interesting for whatever reason. So, thank you, Tina. Back to work. Always busy. So when I was when I was researching the history of Easter and Passover and all the things, I found the history of Easter was kind of interesting as far back as foods are concerned. The traditional, like way back when they first started recording this stuff, the traditional meat to eat on Easter was lamb. I really toyed with the idea of making a leg of lamb, I'm not gonna lie. I actually had some spare rib bones left over from a meal that we had not too long ago. And you know, you can always boil your leftover ribs from, like if you have a tomahawk steak or anything like that, you can boil out your ribs to where they sort of sanitize themselves. There's instructions that you can find on how to do that. And then you can use the bones in different projects. Could be a Halloween thing as well, but you know, I know some of you guys are Halloween creepers. So I'm not. I would use it in regular food, but I know, you know, bones, Halloween, the whole 9 yards. So, you know, if you want to save some bones, chicken bones are really good for like skeletal kind of things for Halloween stuff. And like I said, there's instructions on how to boil them and sanitize them so that you can actually use them in crafts. So if any of you are interested in that, you might want to check it out. But for my bones, I used some, and I know this does not, it looks like a set of lips actually, the way that I did it, but I think once I get done, it'll kind of look like a bone. This is just a rubber material that, it's a mold making material, and I used a little bit on the front just to make, wherever it is there, just to make that little piece of the bone there. My silicone in the front is still a touch tacky, so I'm gonna have to be careful. I'm not gonna have to paint this area too awful much, just a little shading, because that's like the pinkish meat where, you know, you'll do your slicing and stuff. Hey Deneen, how are you? So I experimented just a little bit in this area here to make sure that I was getting my colors correct. But I'm going to tell you what I did. Put him there. This far. This is almost, if you saw my turkey video, hey Jan, if you saw my turkey video, I made a whole turkey and excuse me, my nose is itching. I made a whole turkey and all the sides, and then we decorated our whole table with all the fake foods and stuff for Thanksgiving, and we took a video. Excuse me. This pollen is getting to me. So how you get to this point, good grief. I was hoping I wouldn't start coughing. You can find any kind of foam pieces like this at the craft store. I would say Joann's, but I don't even think the Joann's are open anymore. If they are, I doubt they have much left. This is 2 inches thick. You don't have to use anything this thick for sure, because you can roll it and make it thicker. I used a piece, I cut like that much, maybe 8 inches across, and this is 2 feet. So it was about 2 feet by 8 inches. And all I did was roll it up, and then I took rubber bands and put 2 rubber bands just to hang on to it. So I had sort of like a roll of this material. That just serves as your base material for what's in here. I mean, this guy is pretty squishy. Like, you can mess with him a lot. You can throw him around the room, use him as football, whatever you want. I mean, for prop making, for theater productions and stuff, this is perfect, because you know if it hits the floor, it's going to bounce. It's not going to break or anything like that. So it's a good way to do it. You can also use like balled up pieces of paper and then wrap them in foil to make yourself a base. So there's lots of ways you can do it. After you get your foam or whatever you're going to use, you're going to take some, this is polyfill. Get that open. Polyfill. You can get fiberfill. You can buy the rolls of like quilt batting, and you'll wrap your foam, or in my case, I took pieces and stuffed. After you stuff your foam in a pair of pantyhose. For the turkey, I kept the legs on and put the panty in the turkey, and I used the legs to stuff for like the turkey legs. I didn't need the legs for the ham, so you see I'm just left with 2 legs and the panty is gone. So I used the panty part, wrapped my foam all the way around the turkey. You can see underneath here, this is where I pulled the panty, the end of the panty part here, and I just used hot glue very carefully, and like a butter knife, because hot glue doesn't really stick to stainless steel. Push down and hold it, and you can seal your panty right to itself. So this is nothing but foam, a little bit of batting stuffed where I needed a little stuffing, and then pantyhose wrapped around the whole thing. Now, to make this flat part in the front, because hams get sliced like that, I took a paper bowl and cut off the rim and just put the paper bowl on top of the end of my foam and pulled my pantyhose over the top of it. So that's how this turned out to be flat. So I hope that was a halfway decent explanation of how I got to this part. If you have any questions, just ask and I'll try and answer it the best I can. I didn't want to do a whole nother one of these on camera. I did that with the turkey. I actually made 2, but I didn't want to do it just because this next part, after you get all your pantyhose secured and everything out, the silicone that goes on here, this is clear silicone, 100% silicone, I have the silicone gun that you shoot it out of. What you have to do is color it whatever base color you want. I have a couple of different colors on here. It's a little reddish and a little brownish. I used a couple of different, I actually had to fill my bowl a couple of times, so my colors, I guess you can see the difference in the colors pretty good right there. I went a little bit reddish on the top and a little bit brownish underneath. And I did that just to have sort of a combination of colors. But what you'll do when you have your pantyhose secured and all glued in place, you'll take the silicone in a bowl and you'll put your paint colors in with your silicone, working pretty quick with a popsicle stick. You need to stir up your paint and then you need to smooth it across your whole area here. Now that's why this part is still tacky, because I used the flat part to balance him on overnight, to let all of this silicone here dry overnight, because once it's dry you can work with it really well. Then first thing this morning when I came in, I mixed up another batch of this sort of pinkish brown to go where the meat would be, and I put it right here. So this is still a little bit tacky. I guess I did this probably 5 hours ago, and it's still a little bit tacky, but it's good enough for me to work with. I mean, it's not really coming off. It's tacky, but it's not coming off on my hand. So it's okay to continue on with the paint. I also have some pineapples and cherries, which I'm going to be placing and hot gluing onto the ham, and we'll do an array of that. Yes, I'm sure they did, because you know some men somewhere made pantyhose. Like, I don't even know why they made pantyhose, because that is like the Chinese torture device of the year is pantyhose. I mean, holy cow. And nobody even wears those anymore, I don't think. I know I don't. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine me putting on a pair of pantyhose? It would be funny, but I'm not going to do it. So, hi Raymond. We're making ham today. And hot cross buns. That's my second thing. Again, when I was researching the history of what they ate, like in the first Easter celebrations, it was leg of lamb and hot cross buns. The Queen actually outlawed the making and selling of hot cross buns any day other than burial days and Easter. Those were the only days that you could do hot cross buns, because they considered them a delicacy back in the day. So after we mess with our ham, we're going to be making some hot cross buns, and I'll show you. Me too, I love ham. I'm going to make a ham this week. So, as you know, around the holiday times, they're really cheap and you just have to have one. So, yes, pantyhose are the devil. Spanx, no. No, thank you. That's even worse than pantyhose. So, anyway, we're going to start painting our ham. And I looked up a whole slew of pictures. I would consider this a semi-boneless ham. Actually, a semi-boneless half ham is what the pictures said that this most resembled. So that was kind of what I was going for. Not that that's important or anything. But it has sort of like a reddish brown tone to most of the top of it. And right around this slicing area, it almost looks crispy. I'm going to try to get some crispies going, and I'll show you how to do that. And I hope I don't set this place ablaze, but if I do, it'll be something. So for my reddish brown color, I'm going to use some burnt sienna. This is the Master's Touch, the burnt sienna, which anyone who knows me knows that I like my sienna group for a lot of baked items. This pollen needs to tone down. So I'm going to use sort of a small-ish, maybe I won't. Let's see. We can be a little more daring, can't we? I have a 3/4, or is this a 1? No, this is a 3/4 inch soft flat brush. This is one of my really soft ones. You can also use those pouncer foamy things for this. That'll work good as well. I'm going to make sure that I have sorry, plenty of water on my brush. And I'm just going to get the brush pretty loaded with paint. I may want to put a glove on for this, just so I don't make a total mess. I think we're going to make steak for Easter, but I do have a ham in the fridge that I'm going to make at some point this week. And you can do so many leftovers with ham, even though it's super salty and I shouldn't eat it, but I do love it every once in a while. So I'm just pouncing this color on here to get it looking a little more baked, like a ham would. I'm also going to do a little bit of shading on my pineapple slices to make them look like they've been baking on top of this thing the whole time. You kind of have to treat your fake food like you would real food. I actually am not crazy about putting pineapple on ham. I like brown sugar hams, but I can do without the pineapple. My mother liked the pineapple on the ham, so we used to do that back in the day. Oh yeah, beans. Anything bean is good with me. Because you know what happens when you eat beans. JR will tell you. You don't want to give that man too many beans. Only if he's going out on the truck the next day. So I'm kind of being sloppy with this because I already have a color on the bottom. This is, you know, you don't want to do it completely. You just want to make it look toned like a real baked ham would be. So I think that's a, you know, a decent baked ham look right there. Hi, Cece. I loved your frogs. I couldn't comment because I had sticky hands at the time, but I do watch. All right, let's get this over to the other side, and I'm going to try not to get this too messed up here. So for these edges around, like where you'll cut your ham, I want them to look crispy and very brown. So I think I'm going to use the coffee podge trick, if any of you guys know about that, that you can actually put a heat gun to and have it sort of bubble up, and it looks very, very realistically cooked. I was actually testing the technique on some, I was trying to make the creme brulee macarons earlier, and the technique actually worked pretty good. I think I'll probably be doing a video on that before too long. I'll tell you, I've been a sticky mess lately. My Etsy world has gone crazy with pies. That's all I've been doing is pies lately. Every order I get, pies. And pies involve resin, and resin involves Andy making a sticky mess. Now I have cherries floating all over. I'm almost done with this part. All right. Now for the bone area, I'm just going to sort of very gently brush this around there. I'm probably going to have to go over it with another, like a cream colored shade is what I'm thinking. I'm going to wash this brush out. I have no idea where all my cherries just went. Let's see if I can find those. Oh. All right. So this is what we have so far. Now I'm going to darken up this pink area in the front. And I'm going to use, I think I'm going to try the raw sienna. I told you I really like my sienna group. Oh, get this washed out. So we used the burnt on the top, and I'm going to try some raw on this pink part here. Let's see, not to get that in my pineapple just yet. Now, I don't want to put a lot of paint on here, so I'm going to get most of it off my brush. And I know that sounds weird. You just put the paint on the brush, but now I want to take some off. And I just want to sort of very gently wipe just a minimal amount of color over this pink. And I'm going to start doing circular motions with this so that I don't get brush strokes. And I'm going to go around that little bone area there and just put a little color on him. Even though I feel like the bones look a little more gray than anything when they get cooked. I'm not sure if you can see that, but I did interject another color onto the pink. And I think that looks fairly good. Now I'm going to grab some of this Mod Podge, or Coffee Podge. This is nothing but a little bit of Mod Podge and a little bit of the Coffee Grunge mixture, which is instant coffee, cinnamon, vanilla, and warm water mixed together in basically whatever proportions you want to mix them in. There is a recipe for it officially on My Sweet Home Living Facebook page. But I actually mix this in different consistencies for different projects. It depends on the coloring that I'm going for. And sometimes I'll even use some very strong tea. I'll boil multiple tea bags together to do this, and it'll give me a different shade. So there's different ways that you can do it. I'm just going to take some of this coffee podge and go right along the edge here, sort of in the most prominent area where you're going to see that crusting, I guess, where the ham would be baked. And I'll do a little bit on the top as well. And I may even go just a little bit around this bone area. But not too much. I'm going to do just a little bit on the raised areas on the top of the ham. This will also give it a nice gloss. Now I'm going to get a little bit of instant coffee, which I thought I had some on my desk, but I don't believe I do because I don't see it. So I'm going to have to roll backwards and get some coffee to put on this. All right. Let me take off the microphone, because if I go away with that, we're going to have an accident. So this is just instant coffee. You can get this at Dollar Tree, lots of places. Ooh, we're running. You can get that in lots of different places. Certainly if you're using it for crafting, you know, try not to pay more than the $1.25 or $1.50. So normally I would put it in a little container, but I'll just do it this way for right now. I'll take sometimes I have my acrylic roller, and I'll just sort of smush it. You want to make this like a fine powder. So crushing it before you put it on here is your best bet. You can also crush it between your fingers before you sprinkle it. So I'm going to go and put this on the places where I put the coffee podge. And we don't want a ton, and we want it to stay right in those areas. And this is just gonna do its thing and start to make like those little, I don't want to call it burnt because it's not burnt, but it looks like it's those cooked marks, like that are darker than everything else. You know what I mean? Hi, Dewey. Yes. Well, my Dollar Tree does. And I'm pretty sure they have this Maxwell House is where I got this. I'm pretty sure. It's funny you say that because I'm always saying everybody else's Dollar Tree has so much more stuff than ours does. And I had this drip down the front, so I'm going to use that to my advantage. And I'm going to put a little of that on there as well. And I'm going to roll this and just get it on these other parts that I put it on. And I seem to be throwing more on the, ooh, that was googly. seem to be putting more on my little sheet than I am on the ham. Alright. Put this back. Normally I have a little cup here of the coffee that's already smushed. And I don't know where it is. It's probably somewhere in my mess. Which I think it's been 2 weeks since I've cleaned my desk, so that means clean your desk again. Alright, so now for the fun part. You see how, and I think you can see it. Let me see if I can tip this up just a little bit. Can you see how the coffee is like melting onto there? That's what happens. The introduction of the powdered coffee into the coffee podge makes it disintegrate, and you get this lovely little pile of browned goo. I know that's a weird description, but it's kind of the best one I have. So, what you want to do to activate your goo is take if you have a heat gun that's one of those ginormous, extra powerful, super hot heat guns, I don't know that I would recommend using that. I use this one on low. This one has a low and a high, and the high sometimes does mean things to my projects because it's just that hot. So what you want to do is hit this with some low heat from a heat gun, and just sort of concentrate it in different places. And after a couple of minutes, the Dollar Tree in Gastonia, I've been looking for a really good Dollar Tree. Thank you, Jenna. After you keep it on the spot a couple of minutes, you'll start to see it bubble up. I use this on my, I use it on a lot of things, but I use it especially on my grilled style hot dogs that I sell. And it makes the most realistic hot dog just putting this stuff on it and cooking it with the heat gun. That takes a couple of minutes, and you have to go over all your areas. I didn't put my microphone back on. You probably can't even hear me. Sorry about that. Can you hear me now? So just go over all your different areas and it'll start bubbling up, and it'll dry not sticky at all. And that's a plus. But it makes it look very uniquely baked. Now it probably takes at least 60 seconds of holding it in place to have the bubbles pop up on that coffee podge. And you'll know it when you see it. And I know I'm too far away and you can't see it on mine, but it does happen. But it dries it instantly. It takes all the sticky out of it, and it leaves that like genuine cooked. Just very realistic. Now I'll go over all of these a little bit better. I'm probably going to get those drips out of the front. I don't like the way that came out. Let me just dry this a little more so I don't stick my hand in it. This technique, again, for Halloween crafts, this technique of the burnt on shiny weirdness, I can think of a lot of things that you could do for Halloween using this material and this technique. So you might want to keep that in the back of your mind. Alright, so I'm going to pull this around back to me, and I'm going to fix this front part here because I don't like the way that came out. So before I do any more with that, get some water on there. And if you make boo-boos, you can go in with a baby wipe or a wet paintbrush, and you can just sort of, I think I'm going to grab a baby wipe and wipe this off a little. I'm trying not to catch my extra pantyhose on fire over here with my heat gun. Yes, this is a huge ham. This would be considered a semi-boneless half ham is what the picture said that I was going by. I always try and find a decent picture of what I'm doing or what I want to do before I do it. Alright, so I got those icky little streaky things off of the front. So I like the way this looks a lot more. And once I get the pineapple on there, it's not going to be so, those real dark areas are not going to be so prominent. So what I was thinking was putting, I'm going to have to take these cherries out, putting like a series of 3 and then another 3 and then more on here. So I think that's how I'm going to do these. And I forgot to turn my glue gun on, but there's not a shocker. So I am probably going to fold up some of this. Yeah. So I had these are the, they're like dual color cherries. These are the very realistic cherries. They have a darker shade and a lighter shade. They're not like a maraschino. This one here is stuck in this pineapple permanently. I can't get it back out. So that one is a maraschino cherry, so he's just staying in there. I know generally you put maraschino cherries on a ham, but these cherries are a little bit smaller. And I think they're going to fit on here just a little bit better. And I'm not going to have to, maybe not. Yeah. I think they fit on here just a little bit better than these because I had to really wedge that sucker in there, and he's been in there for a long time. So I had a bunch of these cherries, and I just pulled the stems off of them with a little pair of pliers and got them ready that way. So that's pretty easy. And I'm going to do a little bit of darkening with some paint once I get them on there. I'm going to have to wait for my gun to heat up here, and then I'm just going to glue these pineapples all around. So I guess I can go over our mini lineup today. Normally after me is Nicole and Marie. Nicole's Great Creations and Marie's Faux, no, Great Creations Faux Cupcakes. They are away on a cruise for Nicole's 40th birthday, so they will not be with us this week, but normally, and this morning, we started with Cece from Dragonflies and Hearts. She comes on at 11 a.m. every Tuesday. And then Jan C's Designs, Jan from Jan C's Designs comes on at 12:30. I'm on at 2, and then typically we have 2 more creators after me, but I'm going to be it for today. So if I go just a little bit over 3 o'clock, we're just going to have to go with it, because it's fine. You don't have anybody to watch from Crafting Collective today, so come on, heat gun or glue gun, whatever you're called. I love this battery operated glue gun. Best invention ever. I have the matching battery operated caulking gun for my silicone. All I have to do is press the button and the silicone dispenses, and I don't have to crank the handle and kill my hands because I have arthritis. So I like that as well. I'm taking my time, Jan. I'm getting flustered because I forgot to turn my glue gun on. We're going to be looking at some hot cross buns, which I molded up a couple, and I was going to show you how I did them. Typically I would make these out of salt dough because they're much more realistic than these. I did coat this with some of that coffee podge because hot cross buns are fairly light in color. You'll typically see them like in 4s or more than that in a pan, all sort of baked together, and then you sort of pull them apart. They do have raisins or currants in them. I know somebody had asked me how to make raisins, and I'll get into this in just a minute, but put that back over there. I do make these raisins. They look just like a golden raisin. You can make them the other color as well. All I do is use silicone for these, and I do that to keep them flexible. I can bend these. I can take my little cutter and I can snip pieces off of this. All I do is take a piece of parchment paper and I squeeze out like a snake of silicone, or a few of them, on my parchment paper. I'll wait about 30 or 40 minutes until I can touch it without it sticking back on my finger. When it forms that skin over it, I'll take a crumpled up foil ball like this one, and I'll just roll it along the snake. And then I'll flip the snake over and I roll it along the other side. And that's all I do. And then after that, I just shape these out. I cut off little raisins, however big I want them, from my silicone string. And you can paint these. This is the ochre color, and you can paint them with the reddish burnt umber as well to make a regular raisin. So either way works. And that's all I did with these hot cross buns. I just used my little pieces of raisin and stuck it in there. Like I said, I would normally do those out of salt dough, but I didn't have time to do that today. So I just used my Model Magic, and they came out pretty good. So I'm going to have to press and hold with these for a couple of minutes to get them to really adhere to that surface. I'm going to have to stick my cherries down in the centers there. This should not take long putting these on. I'm just sticking the cherry down in the hole with a little glue. Whoa, that hurt. Need to wait until the glue dries. Deneen, you buy raisins? Where do you buy raisins? I don't know that I've ever seen anybody sell raisins. Or are you talking about real raisins? Ah. Hi, AJ. Your name's Andrea too, right? Is that, or is it Andy? Are you Andy like I'm Andy? I can't remember. Oh, now I got a big glue booger on there. Oh, you don't bake? I used to love to bake. I don't anymore. I don't know why. I mean, I do this every single day. You're Andy like I'm Andy. Okay, I thought so. Is your full name Andrea? Because that's my name. I'm Andrea. I'm going to stick some of these cherries down in these pineapples just to get them to dry so that they don't fry my hand off again. Glue boogers, I don't like them. I thought about trying to figure out a way to put pins in these to get them to stay, but I couldn't figure out how to do that. I didn't want them to raise up too much. Whoa. One thing about this glue gun, this glue is so hot. It's like crazy hot. Thank you, Tammy. I sold my other 2 turkeys that I made to some one went to a studio where they do commercials, and the other, what do I have, 4 left here? The other one went to a food photographer. Maybe I'll sell my ham too. You never know. All right, let's see. Where do we want to put him? I think we'll put him back here. It's going to take me forever to pull all these glue boogers off of this guy. Oh, and I need to say thank you to all of you guys who have signed up on my mailing list on my blogging site. If you don't know, it's called the PropChef.com. And I'm doing weekly blogs, material that's not really being shown anywhere else, helpful tips and tricks. Oh, they love it. The big show is in May, and I can't wait to get the feedback on this. I don't know. Let's see. Do we need 2 more or not? Or should we stop? Is that enough pineapples? Should we put one more on each side or leave it the way it is? What do you think? Is that enough? I could have 2 more over here. What do you think? Should I do 2 more? Just for good measure? I think I should do 2 more. Let's just do it. Uh-oh. Andrea says leave it. Jenna says 1 more. Tammy says I think it's good. I think I'll stick them on there. I took them out. I don't want to have to put them away. Let's just stick them on there. I'm running out of glue. Ah! Was that an omen? I should have left it. Oh, my cherry's falling out. Oh, no. And then I put it down on the paper. Oh, no. You never know what's going to happen until you do it, right? I need to move on to the hot cross buns. This is a sticky situation. I've never made a hot cross bun for real. I know the nursery rhyme from way back. I don't know how many people still know the old nursery rhymes, but my mom, when I was growing up, my mom read me nursery rhymes or told me nursery rhymes every night before bed. So I still remember a lot of them. All right. Where does that need to go? He kind of leans to the side. All right, I think I'm going to leave him the way he is for right now, and then I'll assess it after everything is dry, because I'm probably going to have to do touch-ups. But I think he looks pretty good, and I don't know why I keep calling him a he. Is it always the he pigs that die, or is it the female pigs? Do they kill the female pigs for hams too? I don't know that. I actually don't like to think about that. I mean, I like ham, but I had a pet potbelly pig at one time, and I know potbelly pigs are not used for ham. They are not to be eaten. His name was Norman, and he was one of my best friends ever, and he was adorable. He was huge. He wasn't a mini pig. He was a full-size 200-pound pig, so he was a lot. I miss Norman. All right, so I'm gonna have to move this guy up here. And I don't think you're gonna be able to see if I do that. He's too big. Oh no. Yes, 1 a penny, 2 a penny hot cross buns. My mother used to do some kind of clapping thing with it, but now I don't remember. I'm gonna have to think about that. So I made these 3 earlier, and I'll show you how I did that. I haven't put the icing on yet. I did coat this one with some of the coffee podge, just because they're sort of light in color. Apparently when you make a hot cross bun, it's a slightly sweetened dough that has either currants or raisins in it, and then they're shaped. They put the signature cross on it. They stick them all together in a pan, and then they bake them. And when they come out, you take apricot jam and a little bit of warm water, mix it together, and you glaze over the top of it, and then you put the signature icing strip in the cross format. So that's how the real ones are made. And like I said, if I was doing these for sale for a fake bake kind of thing, I think I would definitely make these out of salt dough so that they are much more realistic, because these are really not. These are just model magic. I mean, not that they don't look like, and they can look like the real thing. They're just not like I call it hyper realistic. I try and really make it look and smell, in a lot of instances, like the real thing. And that's kind of it's what I strive for, to make it like as realistic as possible. So any sort of breads or stuff like that, I typically will use salt dough or the cinnamon dough I like for the darker breads and things. This has already been conditioned quite a bit. So all I did was I took a large ball of this. I didn't even weigh these out, which I would normally do with salt dough, just to make sure that I get them all uniform. I pressed the top down a little bit, and then I took this part of my hands here and just gently pushed, and then I moved it to the side to sort of make a square with beveled edges, basically. And then press the top down just a little bit more. And I just keep spinning it until I get all the sides drawn down to the way that I like it. And then I have this, I'm not even sure what this thing is used for, to be honest. It's got a couple of sides on it. It may be a tongue scraper or something. I don't know. It's never been used for anything but in here. I promise. I have never scraped my tongue with this. If that's what it is. I don't even know. I use it for texturing on certain things. This is not really my favorite baked texture, but it's not bad. It at least gives it something. So then I took the other side of it, just because it's about the right shape and length, and I just sort of squished that signature X right in the middle of it. If I was doing these out of salt dough, I'd be able to put these raisins in and really make them look like they're baked in. For these silicone raisins that I made, I'm able to I have this little like wire cutter in these pliers, and I just use them as snips for these, and I just get pieces, small pieces, if I'm doing things like this, and I'll just put small pieces in the dough or the clay. I always call it dough. I always pretend like this is real stuff. And in a typical picture of a hot cross bun, you'll only see 2 or 3 of these on the top. You'd probably see more, maybe a couple on the sides, if that. Sometimes you don't in the pictures. I looked up a lot of pictures of these and, how to make them and all that kind of stuff. So that's all I did there. I probably shouldn't have put one in each square, but it's just how it came out. So then what I did with this first one was I went back to my coffee podge mixture, because like I said, this is a lighter crust until a lighter bun kind of thing until after it bakes. And then the top is a little bit darker, but not a ton. These are not really dark kind of rolls. It's more like the color of a cinnamon bun, I guess. But I liked the way this looked when I put it on here. Plus it's gives it a nice shine right off the bat because this is a gloss Mod Podge coffee podge, and it's sealing the clay a little bit, which is always nice. And it is super sticky. So that's what I did to color that. Now, what I was thinking, this one is dry. What I was thinking was I would go back to my raw sienna and get just a little bit of that, because that's kind of one of my go-to shadings is the raw sienna. I like it quite a bit. I think it's a nice baked color. And I'll probably put a little bit of water in there. Maybe that was a little too much. I will dab some off on this paper towel just so that I don't have too much on there. Now on this one that's dry, I'm going to go very lightly over the top of it. And I'm just going to change that color of the top to a little bit more of a baked color. Just going to get this over here. And I think that's probably a little bit more what we want right there. That kind of looks more like it has the jam, the apricot jam smeared on the top there. And then what I would do is take, I don't want to go all the way down to the bottom because these are, they're sort of a pull apart a pull apart roll. So the sides are going to be like you pulled it away from another one, if that makes sense. Kind of like you would a cinnamon bun. You know, when you pull a cinnamon bun apart, you have that side that's really really more of a cream color. So I think that's more the color that I'm going for. And then I'm going to have to take off my microphone one more time because I forgot something. This is my icing glaze that I have a little bit thin out. You can do both, Deneen. You can do it on wet or dry clay. If you're going to use the heat gun and the coffee shavings on it to make the crispy looking, I let the clay dry first. The heat gun on this Model Magic will really soften the clay to the point where it can distort. Make sure my lines are deep enough here. So for something like that, I would definitely let it dry. Like I let that dry on here even though my clay was wet when I put it on, but I'm not hitting this with the heat gun and I'm not doing the sprinkle of the coffee on top of it. It's just as a more of a colorant, and it smells good. If you've ever smelled coffee grunge or coffee podge and you're a coffee drinker, it's some really good stuff. Now this is my icing glaze that I thin out that I use as a drip. Now hot cross buns have this sort of signature string of icing that goes in both directions. So that is a pretty decent representation of a clay hot cross bun. And like I said, I think if you wanted to make these like super realistic, you would definitely want to make sure that you go for something other than clay. But if you're just doing them as, you know, something for a tiered tray or something to put on a plate or something like that, I think this clay is fine. I mean, I think it's pretty cute, actually. I like them. And when you display them, I mean, if it was me, I would display them all four with sides touching, just to keep them a little more realistic in that respect. So, but that's just what I would do. So I think, yeah, layer of this coffee podge, and then doing mostly the top with the raw sienna just as a little touch up, I think is pretty nice. This coffee podge also is sealing these raisins in, so they're not going anywhere. And now if you were using foam clay for this, I would definitely say make sure you seal them in, because I feel like the foam clay might try to expel the raisin. I don't know that for a fact, but I would think, just because foam clay doesn't hold shape quite as well as Model Magic. So I would say you definitely want to, you'd probably have to depress your cross several times in the foam clay to get it to hold. It's definitely doable. You could use like a skin color or a very pale yellow or even a cookie dough color to do these with a foam clay, and I think that would be super cute. And then just shade them a little bit darker. So now I have all these painted. Now I would just let these dry thoroughly before I put the next coat on the top. And then stick them all together and make a little display. And that's cute. So, that's about all I have for today. I hope y'all enjoyed the ham and the hot cross buns. Even though I didn't get to wear my rabbit ears. But that's okay. So, I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their week. And if you're celebrating Easter, I hope you have a wonderful Easter. And if you're celebrating Passover, I hope you have a wonderful Passover celebration. And lots of good things. And yeah, if you're just celebrating Tuesday, happy Tuesday. And we're pushing for Happy Friday, right? Because that's as good as Happy Tuesday in my book. So, until next week, this is Andy, the Prop Chef, signing off. If anybody wants access to my email list and coupons and tips and tricks and all kinds of cool stuff, you can go to thepropchef.com and look on my site there and mill around. I've got a few blog posts on there. I'll be putting another one up later this week. And you can sign up on the email. Hopefully it's giving you a return email pretty quickly. I think I have it set correctly. And hi Uli, how are you? So yeah, if anybody can tell me if that's working correctly, that would be great. My son-in-law tested it for me, so I'm pretty sure it is. But you should receive a return email. Hopefully it doesn't land in your spam. So yeah. Any other questions, you can send me a message or leave me a comment on here and I'll try and get back to you. I'm really good, Uli. Say hey to Mr. Keith. So I will see you back here again next Tuesday at 2. And I will, like I said, I'm going to put up another blog post later this week. I've got a couple of YouTube videos that I've recently put up. I have another one going up today. So you can check all that out if you are bored and need something to watch. So I will see you guys later. Have a great rest of your week and a good weekend celebration. Bye, y'all.